Dun, 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 dun. Somebody left a comment telling me I should like do that at the start of every episode from now on. Okay guys, hi, and I guess it is that time again, and yes, you will notice Kaineng Center is looking significantly different right now, very, very lovely. That's because it's the 7th anniversary of Guild Wars 1 going on at the moment. I'm going to film this episode, and then I'm going to bugger off and show you some of the new cool stuff that's going on, and it might mean, actually, oh no, I would never want to get rid of Suru. But there is a new pet in the game, but I'll talk about that, obviously, on that episode. What we're going to be doing today is, I guess it's that time again. We're going to be looking at all of the dialogue that is available here at the end of part 2. Now, I'm not sure how much dialogue we'll find on Tom, and I'm not sure how much we'll be able to like fill in for on Peter, because some of this dialogue appears in the same locations as dialogue that we may have already seen. Like, for example, just outside this portal outside Kaineng, one bit of dialogue unlocks, right, as you're about halfway through part 2, and then another bit of dialogue unlocks there at the end of part 2, like on one of those last quests. So I'm not sure whether the one overlaps the other and then you can't see it anymore, in which case we would have missed it on both Peter and Tom, or what. So we'll just see what happens. I'll go out and see if anything triggers immediately. It doesn't, because we've already seen this on Tom. So this is going to be the same format as before. When I go off, I've got my little thing open on Paint with all the little different like pictures and on all the maps pasted together, and I'm just going to be doing no commentary, going to each area and hitting record every time we find one of the things, and then there'll be a bit of post commentary afterwards. Sound good? Yeah, I think it does. I'll see you guys in a bit then. Alright, actually this wasn't too bad. I managed to find all of the bits of dialogue after a bit of messing around. It turns out they always just show you by default the earliest dialogue, so you can just trigger that and then keep going back until the right one triggers, which is quite cool. So you can come out here, and the Dockmaster speaking, he says, things are going to get a lot harder for us if the Ministry of Wind has its say on things. And the dock worker says, that useless lot, what are they doing this time around? This is why I love these dialogues, because it mentions the other ministries. I mean, I think the only one that we haven't heard of is the Ministry of Earth so far. They're citing what's happened with the Jade Brotherhood as a need to enforce stricter regulations on trade, that they must be aware of what is coming in and out of Catha. Now, this specific dialogue I kind of recognise. Maybe I'd listened to it quite recently, but I don't think it was one of the ones I showed before. If it is, I'm very sorry. Anyway, at this rate, they'll be telling us that no ships will be allowed to sail in or out without their approval. And it's a pretty cool one. There's actually some really fun, nice dialogues here. Dialogues. I feel like that shouldn't be a plural. But anyway, some of them are quite cool. For example, one of them is like a husband and his wife, and one of them's joined the Ministry of Fury. It's pretty cool. In fact, the husband in that looks a little bit like a woman, and you'll like see while I'm reading it out. I like check to see just for sure. But anyway, we'll get to that when we get to it. The next one is out here, just past the marketplace. There's a few around the marketplace. In fact, you can get kind of 2 in a row, and then go up into the one I just showed you, and it can work out quite nicely, all based around the marketplace, which is pretty cool. But this one is just around this corner. This one I think we did read before. This one triggered in the middle of a previous side quest, but I came to it anyway for completionist's sake. I can't believe how bad things have gotten. We always knew that the gangs were a threat, but if we didn't cross them, they left us alone, says the peasant to the other peasant. And the other peasant says, now that the ministry is inspiring... Oh no, this is the same guy. Now the ministry is inspiring would-be heroes and foreigners who don't understand our way of life to go and fight them. What good is that doing? Remember, we were reading this and it was in the midst of some other dialogue. I'm using that word a lot lately. It's making the streets more dangerous. That's what I go to bed every night, fearing for my family, praying that the fighting won't affect us. Exactly. They're only poking a hornet's nest, and it's the innocent people that are getting stung. Which is fair enough. I like this because some of these dialogues you'll come across, like one person will be called like a student, one person will be a guard, one person will be, you know, a peasant, and they actually think about the difference between them. So I do a little bit of clever edit in there, but that's me cutting to Kaineng Center. There's a lot of crap I just cut out. But then we go into Bukdek Byway. Make sure you've triggered all of the previous dialogues, and you actually find some guys just outside here. If you remember at the start of the episode, nothing triggered here, but you can get something to work eventually. Shen Su, who's a new initiate in the ministry, says, my friend, I must confide, things aren't quite what I believe they would be. And Quan Wei, I'm not sure if these are characters we knew before from somewhere. How do you mean? It seems to me the Ministry of Purity is doing good work. They've accomplished exactly what they set out to do. Which is, I suppose, fair enough. Shensu says, well, yes, that's all true. And I feel like I should be proud to say that I'm a part of that. But the truth is, more than anything else, I just feel afraid. I really liked reading that, and then I kind of looked at the character. I wish I'd zoomed in like, on his mask a little bit more, You can kind of see the people beneath the masks. I went into this driven by fire and passion to make Cantha safe, to protect the people that I love and care. And those are powerful notions, one worth rallying behind. I'm not sure that sentence makes complete sense, but it's hard to cling on to your ideals when it means striking down another man. I know what the Jade Brotherhood and the Ampha do is wrong. It's an evil in our world. These dialogues really kind of show individuals going against the sweeping movements that are happening in Cantha, and this is definitely a good example of that. Cranway says, and you're helping us to rid of that. Why is that something you can't take pride on? He says, but they're still men. They're the same as you or me. I've had to see their faces as they've died, and know that they've died because of me. How can anyone take pride in that? So some people are starting to question themselves and question Reiko's vision, perhaps. But that's that dialogue. Kind of ends on a bit of a scary note there. We zone out into Bejunkan Pier. Lots of dialogues appear here, always at that same dock, and we'll be back here before long. But it was a little bit funny because I had to trigger it on Peter first, and then obviously go through the part 1 stuff, which is good. I mean, I do like the way that they've set up. I was worried that if you had a part 1 dialogue in a certain area and then you unlocked a part 2 dialogue, the part 2 would just overwrite it. But instead, as I said, they force you to see the part 1, and then you can go back and then you'll see the part 2 stuff, which isn't necessarily very user-friendly for someone that hasn't been keeping up with all the dialogues on the character at once, but it is the best of both worlds, and that you will see everything if you want to see everything. But we can come over here to the dock, and there's a disgruntled Canthan Guardian with a very cool weapon set who says, you have no idea how tired I'm getting of knocking together the Ampha and the Jade Brotherhood's heads to try and keep some peace. And this ornery sailor says, what are you complaining about? That's just an ordinary downer ship. Pretty much any problem I have can be solved by a good, swift punch to the head. See, this guy, I think this is a reference to something. Someone starts complaining about something, that's just earned them a punch in the head. Someone gets in front of me in the mess hall, that's a punch in the head. Somebody won't stop singing those ridiculous sea shanties, oh, I'm definitely going to punch them in the head. See, that's a reference to something. What is that a reference to? It's so familiar to me, but I'm not sure exactly where from. These guys actually, if you click them, have got specific dialogue for you, unlike most guys. I actually find this out later when I'm zoning through with Peter, and we'll be back and I'll read that. He says, I get it. Ugh, I feel like I was better off dealing with the gangs than you sailors, you sailor bastards, travelling across the unending sea. So yeah, we'll be back there soon enough. The disgruntled guardsman's got some quite funny dialogue. But yeah, now we'll zone out to... Wait, where are we here? Oh yeah, this is past the roost. I had to walk here 3 times before I figured out how to get this dialogue to actually appear. But there are some people right down here, this is where you escort Saw and all the prisoners to, who says, I understand what the Ministry of Purity is doing for the best, that we shouldn't have to suffer these gangs openly walking our streets, but I never thought that things would get this bad. It almost feels like things are more dangerous now than they were before this started. I'm starting to feel like things were better before. At least then, the danger was predictable. It's a hell of a walk to get to this, and the dialogue itself isn't really even that good. And considering I had to walk here so many times before I actually figured out how to get them to appear, it's like one dialogue will appear in some circumstances in the whole explorable, and until you've seen that, you won't see the next. See, this is another one in the same explorable. You can only get that after you've been to that one near the roost. This is a pretty good one. So the Canthan peasant says, I've been so worried about you. Why did you ever run off and join the Ministry of Purity anyway? We were supposed to get married and live a quiet life. I quite like this as well, because this is a ministry cleric. They don't often use like the monks in situations like this, but the cleric is pretty much has the same mentality as anyone in the Ministry of Purity. That's exactly why I enlisted. There's no hope for a quiet life for us so long as so much evil is allowed to run rampant through our country. And the peasant, his wife, or wife-to-be, is actually quite smart. She says, but the afflicted are gone, and rumour has it that the gangs are as good as be. You've made a difference. Things are better now. Come home. See, and do you see what I mean about that cleric's like model? Like, you can't quite tell whether it's a boy or a girl. And the cleric says, there are still other threats to Cantha that must be dealt with. I must finish these. I must finish this, sorry. What other threats? Please, don't choose this crusade over me. Over us. See, and she gets a bit upset. See, it's tearing families apart, guys. I did actually really enjoy this one, though. And the cleric says, I can't tell you that. But just trust me, once this is over, we will have the quiet life I promised you. I'm doing this for us, and I can't stop until the minister's vision is complete. The minister's vision, not your own. You've been brainwashed. This guy actually started to piss me off, which I thought was quite good writing, that actually I did get a bit pissed off by him. And the wife says, Reiko's vision is ever growing. Once the threat is destroyed, she declares something else a threat. First the afflicted, then the gangs. What's next? Restarting the Tengu Wars? And she does like that doll animation. I love it. Some of these guys are doing some hilarious like emotes while they're playing or talking, sorry. The cleric says, enough of this. We only have a short time together. Let's not waste it arguing. See that line there? That pissed me off. That really did, because she's right. And people are like that, especially in some cultures where they can just shut the woman up and be like, look, I'm an idiot, but I'm not going to let you have your say anyway. So anyway, we can come back here, and the ornery sailor says, you looking for a fight, is that it? Because you aren't going to find one here, only a beating. And the Guardian says, I am severely disgruntled. So I found that on my way through. I just quickly hit record so that you guys could see it. I thought it was pretty cool. Anyway, so look, we've got 2 more now, I think. And both of them are actually... Oh, no, 3 more. So we've got 2 on Xingjie Island, and the last one's actually on the dock. So you can come just outside the monastery. And some people are talking. I quite like this. Right, we've got a student on the left, okay, student, and a peasant on the right. The peasant says, did you hear about the massacre at Airy? Peasants, namely, not very intelligent. And the student says, massacre? And he says, apparently, the Ministry of Purity sent some of their forces there to evacuate the Angchu tribe to safety. And those savages tore them to pieces. See, did you see him do his little emote there? I love it. The student isn't so stupid and says, really? Why would the Angchu do that? And why would the Ministry be trying to evacuate them anyway? What's the issue on the island that they aren't bothering to tell us about? So she's actually, thinking this through. The peasant's just hearing something and spouting shite. And unfortunately, it seems like most of Cantha is made up of peasants, as a lot of these places are. So, and the peasant says, well, now that you mention it, I don't know. That's right, you don't know. Stop it. Think for yourself. And now there's a guard, actually, guarding the outpost over there. And he calls across, that's right, you don't know, kid. And you shouldn't let your mouth start flapping until you're sure what comes out is going to be worth the air it takes to push it past your lips. So look, even the guard's quite smart. I love this. And the guard starts talking. He says, the Angchu have been at peace with us for years and have nothing but misery to gain by starting a war with us. The Ministry of Purity picks a fight with anyone or anything that looks at them funny. See, when did they look at Reiko funny? This is what I wanted to hear. Why a crusade against the Tengu? That, plus the fact that I haven't received orders to collect dozens of Tengu scalps, tells me that if anything went down, it was probably just some overzealous ministry commander who went rogue and bit off more than he can chew. So, I like this guard. I like this guard and I like the student. And the peasant's a retard. And the peasant says, the ministry wouldn't... I think I know everything based on uninformed decisions and word of mouth. They're men, boy, like you or me. Fallible. Corruptible. Yeah, put that in your pipe and smoke it. And the student says, yeah, it's probably just a rumour anyway. Calling across. I quite like this shot of me looking at them having a little chat all the way over there. I think that's the end of the dialogue. But I really enjoyed that one as well, actually. Really enjoyed that one. I thought that was quite good. And I actually remember seeing that when I first played through part 2. Next one, I didn't even bother cutting it. Just go straight to Tsumei Village and walk out near like that weird bell shrine thing that I pointed out in early factions. Now, it's supposed to be a landmark here, but it's really just this weird kind of look. Yeah, you can see it there, right there. That thing, whatever it is. And just past there, around on the right, actually. Actually, it's on the field. The map that I followed to get here kind of suggested it was around behind that shrine, but it's actually, you see that peasant and guard I just very briefly hovered my cursor over? It's those guys that you want to speak to. But this one actually bugged out, so I'm going to have to read this one straight from the wiki. Because for some reason the guard's dialogue wasn't triggering but the peasant's was. So the peasant said, I've noticed the Ministry of Purity has been shifting most of their forces east. To which the guard replies, and you're not going to see it, so you just have to listen to me. They are attempting to track down the remainder of the Sinsali forces from the Battle of Jaya Bluffs. There should only be a handful of them left by now. The peasant says, yes, but what if the Sinsali attack us here in the meantime? Who will defend us? So this is obviously setting up the last quest. And the guard says, the Imperial Guards have been protecting the residents of this village for decades. The members of the Ministry of Purity aren't the only ones who know how to lift a sword, you know. And the peasant says, yeah, but I'd still feel a whole lot safer if the Ministry of Purity was here. And then the guard finally replies with, by the 6, I am so tired of hearing that. But to be fair to the peasant, really, let's face it, the Imperial Guard didn't do anything during that fight. They really didn't help out that much. Well, they did kind of help out a little bit, but they didn't help out that much. So, I mean, I love it though, because like sometimes you really do, or at least I really do connect with the Imperial Guard, and I'm like, yeah, look, you guys are, at least you're not corrupt, but at the same time they are a little bit useless. Anyway, so yeah, that bugged out. I'm not sure why, but hopefully just me reading that out was enough for you guys. And yeah, we're going to go and see the last bit of dialogue now, which is back down on the docks over here. So many over here on the docks. You actually see a load of, and this only triggers after you've completed part 2. You see a load of peasants speaking to Zinji, who you might recognise, who says, "People of Kantha, hear me. The Ministry of Purity is not what they seem. I've seen firsthand the atrocities committed by Reiko's thugs." I love how she calls them thugs as well. That's awesome. And the peasant says, "What do you want about, girl? The Ministry of Purity is saving Kantha." By the way, I've flagged, as you can see there, my heroes ages away, so it's just me stood here. That will be important in a minute. Zinji says, No, that's just what they want you to think. I live in Tsumei Village. I was there when it was attacked. And when we saved you and the Angchu saved you? Yeah, we've all heard the story. The filthy Tengu attacked, and the great captain Bei-Chi sacrificed his own life to protect the village from those savages. Bei-Chi being the guy that killed Ryun, and then we slaughtered and sort of slapped down. Zinji says, "What? No, the ministry didn't show up until after the battle was won." She's getting frustrated. She's not explaining herself. It's going to be hard to explain yourself to fools anyway. It was the Angchu tribe, she says, that saved us. Without their help... Ha! Someone should lock this crazy girl up. Why would the Tengu save you from the Tengu? Oh, that line is just like, oh, because the Sensali are not the same as the Angchu. Those backwater Xingji rice farmers always were an odd sort. I'm not crazy, she says. I was there. Bei-Chi was a coward and a murderer. He killed the true hero. A Tengu named... Hey, alright, I'm the true hero. He says, enough of this. I think it's time we taught you some respect, girl. And this is amazing. So they actually go after her and chase her onto the boat. As I said, I don't have any heroes with me, so I think this... I didn't realise this was coming, by the way, so I think it was quite cool that I was actually alone, and I kind of beat them down. I don't kill them, of course, because I'm not an arsehole like the Ministry of Purity, but it is more fighting that's happened on the streets, and now these guys have actually body blocked me into the area. I desperately wanted to go over and click her and see if there was an extra dialogue, but sadly that didn't happen, and I'm just like blocked between them, but that is cool. I think more dialogues should have like ended like that, because that's like a proper mini event there. But we kind of saved her, I suppose, if you will. But it's been more fighting on the streets. Things are escalating. That, my friends, is the end of part 2. And I'll see you tomorrow for the start of part 3. The final... Oh, I should be calling them acts, really, because they're acts in Winds of Change. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you tomorrow.